This program features live coverage of an African safari and may include animal kills and carcasses. Viewer discretion is advised.
Hello everyone, welcome on board and welcome to the Masai Mara. What a great start being welcomed by two of the giants that roam these plains, elephant and giraffe. It is an absolutely beautiful morning here. I'm told it's 15 degrees Celsius, and I forgot how many degrees Fahrenheit that is. My name's Scott. I'm teamed up with James Kayamoe Murethi, and we're looking forward to an adventure with you guys. Not too sure what to do today, so why don't you let me know who you would like to see or where you would like to go. And thank you, Luigi, who is directing the show. Also known as Louise, that is her real name. I've given her an Italian name for some reason, and she has confirmed that it is 59 degrees Fahrenheit. Beautiful. We actually often find elephants in this area most mornings, and I think they're making their way back down into the reserve from the escarpment, which is not too far behind us. And they often go and feed up on the escarpment at night when all the humans and their cows have gone to sleep. And therefore the elephants feel safer and more at peace going to forage on some different vegetation. Oh, look at that. Beauty. So the sun is yet to pop up over the horizon, but it's about to. Interesting. Kristen, thank you very much. You've provided us with two useful bits of information. One is the fact that you would like us to go and look for rhino. It will have to be the black rhino because those are the only rhino you get here in the Mara. And you've also let us know that it is World Rhino Day. So thank you very much. I think therefore it makes good sense for us to do just that. And you'll be glad to know this area that we're in here is good for viewing black rhino. So we're not going to have to travel too far before hopefully we will get lucky. I haven't really spent too much time trying to find them and or following them, but I often just hear reports that they're in this area. So I wouldn't call myself an expert on their movements, but I do know that this is kind of a decent spot. You can see all the little shrubs behind the elephants, and the black rhino are browsers, so they like feeding on all the small bushes. Marvellous. Well, you're not just stuck with me here in the Masai Mara, you'll be glad to know. Sydney is also out and about, so why don't you jump on board and see how his morning is coming along.
Look at that. The weather this morning here by the Djuma Game Reserve is excellent. It's overcast and a very, very good morning. And welcome to the beginning of the morning safari. My name is Sydney Pumulani Mikosi. I am with VM, who is my camera operator this morning. And we are going to try by all means to get you see a lot of interesting animals. For your questions and comments, you can follow us on YouTube. You can also follow us on Twitter, #SafariLive. I will be looking for the interesting big cats. Earlier on, last night, I heard some of the lions roaring in the area. My plan now, when it's still very nice and cold, I'm going to target them first. But if I come across the leopards, it will be a bonus. There are some buffaloes in the area as well that has been spotted last night. Maybe those buffaloes are the ones attracting the big cats at the moment. So my trekking is going to begin here by the Central Road. So the chances of seeing Tingana with this new mate, they are very, very much high. I haven't seen the lions for some time now. It will be very great for me to see them this morning. So, but I want to hit the two birds with one stone. I'm just checking here if I can find the tracks for Tingana and his new mate. So there were some tracks here but not very, very clear at the moment. I'm just going to keep going down towards Central and see if we're going to be lucky this side. Trekking is very much interesting during this kind of weather. When it's overcast, the treks are much better, but sometimes can be difficult. When the sun is too bright, it's also very difficult. So the weather just has to be minimal. Polar, they start mating mostly. They are active when they are about older than 2 years, but 4 years and above is then that they will be now in a real mating. So there is different stages of oestrus on the females, the stages which allows these females to do the mating activities. And the males as well, their testosterone has to be at the right level in order to start doing the mating activities, because it goes hand in hand with the level of aggression. They must be able to defend themselves when they're challenging each other for mating activities. During my drive this morning, I will also go and visit one of the interesting new sites, the den of one of the hyenas, which is much more towards the Philemon's Deep area. I will go and see if we can find something there later on. It's very much quiet here where I am, no animals. Maybe these lions are somewhere in this area, because I'm not even seeing impalas, nothing here. And this is the areas where the roar was coming from. Oh, I saw something interesting here. I just want to reverse so that you can see. VM, can you see this pile of droppings there? I'm just gonna get off the car and go down there. So you can see I am right on top of the droppings here, and I would like to take this opportunity and say to you, Happy Rhinos Day. So these droppings has been left behind here by the rhino, but this was the white rhino. He's just trying to demarcate his territory. So now we're entering the animal that is honored today. This is the white rhino. White rhinos are not the only species occurring in southern Africa. We also got the black rhinos, but in total there are about 5 different types of rhinos. There is Sumatrian rhinos, there is Javan rhinos, there is Indian rhinos, black and white rhinos. So I'm just going to carry on now and see if we can find one of these cats. So now, let's go back to Scott, who's got the giraffes at the moment by the Masai Mara. Lucky with the giraffe in the morning.
Thanks, Sydney. Well, we haven't found a rhino just yet, but we have found this beautiful specimen, a ginormous giraffe bull, and he's just chewing the cud. I know that because I haven't seen him nibble anything since we've been watching him for the last 5 minutes. And let's take a close look. He's going to swallow, so he's just swallowed that mouthful. Now watch his, he's about to swallow this mouthful, and then watch his throat very closely. Okay, there he swallowed. Now watch very closely as the next bolus makes its way up his neck into his mouth. Should be coming any second now. Don't blink. If you blink, you'll miss it. There it goes. Doink! It's one of my favorite things to watch, and I actually haven't seen that for quite a while. Very good. And it's not alone, it's got a little oxpecker I've noticed sitting on its back. It looks like a yellow-billed oxpecker. You can just see it pop onto the other side of its body, so now we won't be able to see it anymore. So I just thought I'd call you back quickly for that. And I've heard our audio's not great, so we need to say goodbye to you for now and try and fix our problems. And I'm going to continue searching for a black rhino. I don't know where you're going, but you're going somewhere. Goodbye.
So I am now heading much more down towards the central part. Oh, I've got some buffalo droppings here. I just got to check the age of this buffalo dropping. I can see right there. So I must have to get off and investigate a bit, because here is where I might find some evidence of these buffaloes and the lions. Yeah, it's not that very warm, but it's not old, so I can feel that. These droppings, they were left behind here last night, and the tracks on the ground, they are heading much more towards that side. So I'm gonna have to hang around here and see if I can at least maybe find these lion tracks after the buffaloes. So I hope those lions were hunting this buffalo herd. So the tracks are going down this way, but let's just first check around here and see if maybe there are some some lion tracks here. Messi Slipwing. Now I can easily detect just from my hands. I can easily use my finger to detect the temperature there. So when it's very warm, you can feel it. And also, if only the outer part is cold, inner part is warm, you can also, if you open it a bit. But the scent as well, when it's when it's starting to get drier on the outside, the smell is not right there. But if you open the inside, you can be able to pick up the smell. And if it's fresh, you're going to be able to detect that. So some hyena tracks, no lion tracks yet. So my apologies for that. The rain is drizzling a little bit, and the camera operator was just trying to clean the glass a little bit. Paula, I didn't copy your question very nicely. I think the final control, the radio was breaking a bit. Paula, there's quite a lot of factors which determine the age of the temperature. One, the wind in the area, and also the time of the day. So those are the factors that contribute, but it doesn't stay long. It doesn't stay much long. So it takes time, but it's not a lot of time. So the droppings don't hold the high temperature for long periods. So that's why it's very much easy to determine, because if it's warm, it means this animal has been here just now. The droppings for these animals don't really smell bad, especially for the herbivores. So the herbivores droppings, it's easy. You can use the finger. It doesn't smell bad. You won't smell bad after handling the droppings with bare hands for the herbivores. Especially the buffaloes. Buffaloes droppings are more like cattle droppings. So we used to collect a lot of them in order to do the flow. So these kind of droppings as well, some of the people here in Africa, they collect them and use them in order to manufacture the bricks. So when we are doing the bricks, we use the mud, and after that we pack all these bricks together and build some holes. And when we are packing, we put this kind of the droppings when they are dry. Here comes the buffaloes. Can you see them? Right there. We got the buffaloes now. So it means we must have to concentrate in this area. But so far I haven't picked up any of these lion tracks here. So I was explaining that then we build we build a structure, and this structure that we build, we put this powder from the droppings. We got to destroy all the droppings into powder, and we burn it. We put the wood, we burn it, so that the droppings can burn much slower in order to burn the bricks. And that is how we make bricks traditionally. Look at that. I'm not too sure how many these buffaloes are, but it's quite a few there. So at the moment you can see that these buffaloes are very much relaxed and they're not disturbed by anything. So which means the lions, maybe they are not around here where we are. On the ground, the tracks are too much, but there I'm only seeing a few buffaloes. So now, let's go to Steve, who's just about to begin the guided walk for his introduction.
Good morning, everybody. Welcome. I am on foot again. It has been 2 months, I think. Well, my name is Steve, and I'm out on a bushwalk this morning with Senzom Kize, and obviously the inevitable with Koza is with us out, and we're going to be doing some tracking. I believe Tingana was seen last night in and around the dam for Pan area with a female that no one quite knows about. So anyway, we're going to try and get a little bit closer. Here comes Herbie's just checking some tracks behind us there. We're going to see if we can get towards that area. I think I have an idea of where they last saw them. We could see them from the dam camp, or we could see the vehicles anyway from the dam camp. There he is, the famous Herbie wave and Herbie smile. Gets everybody quite excited in the morning. But we're going to be spending some time this morning as well, delving into some tracks. I know we've been doing some tracking. They've been doing a social media drive with Tracking Tuesdays. So we're going to spend a little bit of time today with this famous tracking book and show you exactly what we're doing with the tracks to make sure that next Tuesday you have a little bit more of an idea of what we're looking for and how to answer the question. I know a few people didn't guess Vinyala. There wasn't a size comparison on that track. We'll make sure there's one going forward, because you can confuse Nyala with animals such as kudu and maybe others, but we'll get into that as we go over the next couple of weeks. I've asked Sydney to do the same and Taylor to do the same while they're on bushwalk, just to really get in there and show you exactly why we're looking at these tracks and what is we're looking for. Because there's differences, there's subtle differences behind them, and it is difficult to identify a Nyala bull from a young kudu. You can hear this, I don't know if you can hear them, but the squirrels are going absolutely berserk. Good time to keep our wits about us. It's nice to just be out on foot and to breathing it in again. I think it must be about 2 months since I've done a walk. It's a very long time. Very, very long time, but we're out. It is an overcast day. The warmness of a few days ago has brought in this cold front. Octogoli, you want to know what it smells like? It smells dusty. There's a slight moisture to the air because of this sort of hanging mist that we can see around us, which was kind of like speckles of moisture on our head earlier, not from rain, but just from the condensation of this atmosphere. But yeah, it smells dry. It's just dry. There's a dusty, dry smell. So there's nothing too much to report at the moment with regards to smells. But as soon as we find where those buffalo have been, or maybe where the leopards have been, we'll start picking up a few more sort of sweeter or different odors as that comes about. But I believe no one knows who this female was last night. I was chatting with Herbie now about her, and he reckons she's one of those skittish females that comes from Buffelshoek. So hopefully we'll get to find out where they've been, where they're going. They don't generally go too far if they have been mating. It's all about mating. That is, there's no need to feed. We just wonder how far into their mating cycle they are, because it can go for 2, 3, sometimes 4 days. And the reason they finally break up and move apart is due to the fact that they just suddenly get hungry, and well, the need for the sexual side of things decreases slightly as the tummy starts to rumble. But you have to be quite careful with leopards on foot. They react a little bit differently when they're mating. But anyway, let's go all the way up to Scotty D in the Masai Mara. I'm not sure what his plans are this morning, but I'm sure he's got something exciting to show you.
Thanks, Stivovo. So, I'm still following up on Kristen's request to try and find a rhinoceros. And there's quite a lot of belts of forest you can see in this area, and they like moving between these forests. So sometimes you get them out in the open here, or just kind of skirting along the fringe of these thickets. So that's the plan for now. I'm not too sure where to head a little bit later. I really do want to catch up with the Owino pride, as well as the Sausage Tree pride and the 2 young cubs that we've only seen once, and that was, I would say about a week ago. It's quite tricky, this area that we get to explore. It's massive, so you have to drive long distances and into different areas to look for our different characters. It's very, very different to Djuma. Basically, just to get from camp down to the bottom of the hill, you'd be able to drive around the whole of Djuma in 15 minutes, and that just gets us onto the doorstep. So it does make life a little bit, not tricky, but obviously, different, I guess, to Djuma. We have been spending a lot of time with Kekenya recently, which has been awesome. So that's why I'm not kind of heavily inclined to want to go and look for her, although we could bump into her through default. She is a cheetah, if any of you haven't met her. If any of you haven't met her, it obviously means you're new. So give us a shout, let us know if you have just stumbled upon this show. It is a live safari, so you can ask questions by either just popping your questions or comments in the little comment boxes, depending on what platform you're watching, and or using the hashtag SafariLive on Twitter. I'm told a lot of you would like to go and look for waffles. It's not a hugely appealing thought to me, to be honest. No disrespect to waffles and all of you people who love hyena. It's not my vibe, really. Which is great that, you know, there's a whole bunch of us that take you around, because some people obviously have different preferences and things that they like sharing with you. And that gives you a kind of well-rounded safari experience, I would like to think, as opposed to just being stuck with somebody like me who's not hugely excited by the thoughts of going and sitting at a hyena den. Especially, I guess it's because of the other prospects and the other characters that I'd like to look for, like those little lion cubs and the Owino pride. Hello, Barry, possibly Gary. You would like to know if the migration is over. It most certainly isn't, at least here in Kenya. And we could well see a few herds later. Let me pull out my old map book to show you what's going on. So we are basically in the pink area over here in the Mara Triangle. The Mara Reserve is on the opposite side here. You can just stay wide like that. That's perfect. Thanks, James. And basically, the migrating herds, they entered about 2-3 months ago on both sides of the river. Most of the ones in the blue area have crossed over the Mara River and are now hanging out anywhere from kind of midway up the pink down to the south. Last year they made it all the way up into these conservancies. I'm not too sure exactly how far, but they definitely came up past our camp and a lot further north than they've made it this year. And I'm guessing that could be due to the fact that there's a massive area here that's been burnt, and there's beautiful short green grass there, so that's keeping a lot of the wildebeest happy in this area for now. Some have started heading back south, I guess. It's very hard for us to keep track of without a helicopter, I guess. So yeah, thanks, James. They are still around in the kind of southern half of the triangle. There's still a few crossings happening. It's mainly zebra. A few zebra are still coming across from the other side towards us. There haven't been wildebeest crossings for quite a while now, but who knows, that could change. Very, very good. Well, hopefully in one of these thickets a black rhino is going to poke its head or horn out shortly. So we're going to keep searching for that and send you back to Sydney with another large beast.
I've got a very small herd of the Dhaka boys here. I can see it's a group of males together. Dhaka boys are those males who prefer to go and do the mud wallowing. They prefer to go and roll in mud just to take the soil and use that wet soil in order to prevent sunburn. So, but today the buffaloes are very lucky because the weather is not too bad for them. If you look at the colors, they are much more black, and this black color only absorbs heat. It doesn't reflect. So that's why they've got their own interesting adaptation in order to minimize the body temperatures. So I'm trying to listen to the bush here so that maybe we can pick up some of the interesting mating calls from Tingana and his new mate, as the tracks for Tingana and the mate are also heading towards this direction. I have not yet located any of the fresh tracks with regards to the lions in the area, but I'm still looking. These buffaloes, this group of male buffaloes are just behind the big head. The ground already informed me, and I am very well convinced that the tracks on the ground, they are showing that the big head is somewhere around here. Jason, those ones can grow very big because they are very much important for fighting purposes. When buffaloes are fighting amongst each other, and also when fighting their predators, they use them. So the space in between those horns can go up to 2 meters. So you can see that is very much wide. So the buffalo horns, they are very much rough, especially for these darker boys. They sharpen these horns. You'll see sometimes threshing bushes, and when they are getting irritated on something, they thresh bushes. Sometimes they fight the termite mounds, and those kind of activities sharpens their horns. So they can be able to shovel something very high up. When angry, their muzzles, neck muzzles, they help them in order to propel the weight just to pull something up. So I can see now that their sighting is disappearing. I'm just going to move now on and see if we can find something interesting. Now, let's go back to Steve. Steve is on a bushwalk now and see what he's having at the moment.
Well, Sydney, well done on finding your buffalo. We are just below Voitela dam wall. There was some squirrels going absolutely ballistic. Herbie seems to have found some activity of where he thinks that female was. I'd love to show it to you, but with this light, it's impossible to see tracks. Well, it's almost impossible to see the tracks, but to show you on the camera, not at all. As the light gets a little bit better, we'll be able to start doing some tracking for you or showing you some pictures, but we're just listening. We're going to pop out now of the drainage line towards Central here, see if there's any tracks coming through. Senzo is going to engage four-wheel drive and follow me up the hill. But lions calling very far away. Torchwood sort of Buffelshoek area. I heard them last night about 10 o'clock from my room. Didn't sound too far away. It was a contact call more than a roar. So we're hoping to maybe see if we can pick up on any of that activity. No doubt with all the buffalo coming in and around. Okay, Herbie's got some tracks up ahead here. Let's go and have a look. I think they're crossing the road there, so it might be easy enough for us to show you. But on this ground that we're walking on, well, only the best can see what's going on over there. But here, into the open, that's why the sandy roads are so important out there for us, to be able to see what's going on. Okay, so here we go. There's a track here. There's the 3 lobes at the back. Always nice for comparison's sake to put a knife there. You can see the 1, 2, 3. And you can see the size of it. It's just smaller than my knife in the sand. So that's the female track right there. Moving this way, we hope to pick up on Tingana's track as well. His are a fair bit bigger. These are definitely from last night, early this morning. Fresh enough to be following. There we go again. Yeah, this is a much nicer picture. Here's the male's track now. This is a little bit bigger. Here's the tracks there. It's actually been driven on this morning. Someone's come down here. See the toe's been obliterated. There is the back pad. Here are the toes. There's another toe over there. It's quite wide. You can see how wide that is to the back pad over there. Very easy to see. I'm sure you can. And that is the front foot. And there's the back foot over there. And you can see that the speed at which he's walking, the distance between the front foot on a leopard is always wider because all of the weight is on the shoulders. The head and the shoulders so it's a bit more splayed out. And the back foot's not as big, but the distance between will indicate how fast. And this was just a medium-paced walk, obviously, in that direction. So it's walking in the road nicely, so we're going to follow this for a little while, see if we can pick up on the second one. It's the male only here at the moment. She might have just been wandering off on the side there. What will happen is the female often instigates the mating, so her hormones and pheromones are going absolutely ballistic with it inside of her, and she's just constantly eager, and so he will stay close to her the entire time, and as soon as she lies down, he'll lie down. As soon as she prostrates herself in front of him, will rub her bottom in front of him and then lie down, and then he'll do the mount. Doesn't last very long. It's very, very short in leopards, but they can mate for about 3,000 times in a couple of day mating session, which Senzo's giving me a really wry smile over there, Senzo. Anyway, it'd be marvellous to be able to see them. But Herbie's about 50 metres in front of us there. The tracks still seem to be going on in the road. Still got the male here. Wonder if the female is. She must be close by. He wouldn't have abandoned her yet. Wouldn't have abandoned her. See, maybe she's walked a bit further in front of him because he's walking at quite a pace now. Still here. You can still see the same gait. The gait hasn't changed. There's the front foot, there's the back foot. Same sort of speed. But someone has driven here. Maybe Sydney's come this way already. He's turning. Haven't seen Tingana in some time, so it'd be marvellous to be able to see him with a new girlfriend. I wonder if Tundi's going to be a little bit jealous. I didn't copy any comms there. I think my mic got turned down. Link to Sydney. Okay, sorry about that, Lou. I bumped my mic cable. Anyway, we're going to continue on these tracks. I'm sure we're going to be lucky. But in the meantime, let's give us Sydney, who's having some fun with buffalo.
I am still doing some trekking here. Now I'm just going around the area where the buffaloes are. As they are in the middle, I'm checking all the roads surrounding this area. But now the challenge is it is drizzling here, and this kind of rain is now disappearing the tracks. I can see now that the tracks are starting to get disappeared because of the rain. So, but rain is not bad. It's something that we are looking for at the moment. We are praying for the rain here by the Lowveld. So all the tracks now, they're starting to look very old. So I'm just going to try and see if we can check all the way down to Central again to see if maybe we cannot be lucky with Tingana and the new girlfriend. There's no luck with the lion tracks here. These lions were roaring in this area, but their tracks are just very difficult to find now. I just want to listen to the bush. Maybe from here we might hear something, as also Tingana and the new girlfriend, when they are mating, they also make kind of an interesting noise. All I can hear from now is the birds. So I can't hear any of the big animals at the moment. Only the birds is what I am hearing. So now when the weather is like this, the grasses I can see now, they are getting moisturized, which is good for these big animals such as the buffaloes. When the grass is moisturized like this, they can be able to eat very easily. And it also restricts their distances because they've got to travel long distances these days in search of the water. But I don't think this is enough. So now let's go to Scott, who is also driving at the moment. So maybe he will be lucky with any of the interesting animals there in Mara.
It sounds pretty miserable over at Djuma, unless, of course, like Sydney says, you are grass. You'll enjoy this kind of weather, especially such a dry time of the year. Here, on the other hand, it is a beauteous day. Interestingly, though, it seems to be getting colder as the sun gets higher up into the sky, which doesn't really make sense. So now I'm moving into another area where hopefully we can find some black rhino, and interestingly, also possibly some lions. It's an area where we had a sighting not too long ago with the Owino Pride, black rhino and elephant all together, putting on a serious show. So we're kind of moving into the next pocket of rhino area. Marvelous. Very, very good. So just to keep everyone in the loop, you won't be seeing Brent here for a while. His last drive was yesterday. He is heading back to South Africa to spend some time down there, which he's looking forward to. He's been here in the Mara for quite some time, and I'm sure a lot of you guys are also excited to see him getting let loose on Djuma. One thing that all of us miss when we're up here is the ability to take you guys on the bushwalk. So he'll be looking forward to that. Nice big herd of buffalo that we're just meandering through here. Let me stop a little bit further up ahead here and take a closer look at them. Alrighty. We come in peace, don't be scared. Buffalo are quite interesting animals in that they often kind of shake their heads and look at you like you've come to cause trouble. I'm not sure whether I don't think it's because they relate the presence of us to also being associated with lions. They simply see far too many vehicles without lions in tow. Of course, occasionally there will be lions and buffalo and a car in the same sighting, but it's definitely not common. So I don't think that theory would make sense. Maybe it's just the fact that we come in and, you know, the noise of the vehicle prevents them from hearing just for a short period as we arrive, and then makes them a little bit nervy. But they all seem to now be back to normal, not taking too much concern for what we're up to or that we even hear. It's usually just upon arrival. Lauren, you would like to know if buffalo ever cross the Mara River. They could well do. I've never seen it happening myself. But yes, they could. They certainly could. But I don't think it's something that happens that often, considering how long we've spent here taking you guys around. You would have thought one of us would have seen it by now, but as far as I'm aware, that is not something that we have documented. Lots of oxpeckers flying around, as well as there's a starling. So it's not just oxpeckers, but two different species. Very nice. The starlings, and there's two different types of starling. I think there's little wattled starlings as well as some kind of a glossy starling. I'm not too sure which one. So three different bird species, two of which will just be eating the insects that get flushed by the buffalo. But the oxpeckers, of which there's two oxpeckers riding on the front, and I think those are wattled starlings on the back. They don't have their wattles at the moment. They're not in their breeding plumage. You can see also how the oxpeckers have got a better designed toe structure, 2 forward, 2 back, to cling on to the buffalo, whereas the other birds have 3 forward, 1 back, so they kind of have to just perch on top. They can't cling on the side. You wonder how far they fly away to go and sleep at night, and how long it takes them to find the herds in the morning. Hello, Paula. You would like to know, at what age do buffaloes start growing their horns? Sure. I would say they start poking out from as soon as as young as a couple of months old. But I mean, I would even go so far as to say they start growing from as soon as they're born. Obviously, you won't really notice them hugely in the beginning, because that's just poking through the hair. Sadly, all the tiny buffalo have already gone past us, so we wouldn't be able to show you any examples. But yeah, I'd say from a very young age, and at least from a couple of months old, you'll start noticing those little horns protruding. It will take quite some time for them to get to, you know, a decent size. I would say probably 5, maybe 6 years to get to kind of adult size. Obviously, there's no set size, so it'll vary from individual to individual depending on genetics. All righty. Let us keep tootling along. Tim, you'd like to know if we ever see any European starlings here? No. I can't think of seeing any in Kenya. You do actually get some that you see in some parts of South Africa, but they're not meant to be there. I think they've just escaped and kind of, as far as I'm aware, and kind of set up shop, escaped from who knows where, or maybe travelled in on ships. But they don't ordinarily, they're not supposed to be found in South Africa, but I do remember seeing them in some areas. It's quite an interesting starling, the European starling, with lots of little white specks on it. Okay, we've got somebody who needs to get somewhere a little bit more urgently than us. We'll just let them scoot on past. Oh, good. We're going to send you back to the bushwalk, and I'm told they are looking at some of our cousins.
That's right. We were looking at Sydney and VM as we've walked towards. We came out of the other drainage line down there, and we got the tracks coming fresh here with some scent marking, scraping, obviously probably from Tingana, that backward scraping that leopards do. And we can hear them just on the other side here. We don't want to go too close because on foot, it generally would move away. She's not a very relaxed female. Tingana on foot, I mean, Tingana means the shy one. He's not very easy to see on foot. If you do find him on foot, he moves away. So the bushwalk, with the bushwalk team, they were on their way back past us there. We said, come, go in there. We're guiding them, see if they can find them. I'm sure in the next minute or so, they'll be able to come right and find an amazing pair of leopards for all of you. Well, that's very cool. I haven't found them yet, but coming directly from there, the noise we heard was that noise that the male leopard makes when he's biting the back of the neck. That I'm not going to mimic it now because that's probably going to go live, and then they're going to make a blooper video all about my mating calls. But hopefully you'll get it up close and personal once Sydney finds them. We're just going to stand here and see if we can keep hearing them. Herbie's just helping to direct because Herbie's got like a geo-visual of where he thinks that sound's coming from. And so we're just guiding Sydney into that area. So we're going to stand here and see. Yes, Dana, it's more dangerous to track mating leopards than a normal leopard, purely because I don't know how long they've been mating for. We talk about, in Animal Kingdom, we talk about drivers. What is it that determines animals' behavior? We get the fear of something, especially fear of man, the need to eat or the hunger drive, and looking after one's children are three of the biggest drivers in the Animal Kingdom. And each of those can be at a different level, depending on season, depending on hormones, depending on hunger needs. And that's why historically, people that have been attacked by leopards in and around the Kruger Park have been diagnosed as being sick and old females, or males indeed, that are starving. They're so hungry that their fear of man drops and their need to eat rises. So a mating pair has been mating for 2, 3, maybe 4 days. Okay, so they can spot a hyena over there. But so you don't know how long they've been mating for, 2, 3, 4 days. They could probably be so hungry they forget any fear that they might have had before. So you've got to be very careful mating leopards, mating lions as well, because the male's testosterone is also up, and anybody trying to influence his time with his lady, well, that is what it's all about, being a territorial male. That's why they're territorial, is for the opportunity to mate with a female. So you've got to be very careful getting too close to them. Okay, well, I'm not sure. Herbie can see hyena approaching the vehicle. Hyena might be trying to mess with the couple's retreat, African wilderness retreat. So hopefully we'll be able to go to them shortly to give you some action from that side. But we don't want to go back or too close, as I said before. First of all, we don't want to chase them off, and second of all, there is potential danger risks as well. I'm just going to come up to where Herbie's height is and see if we can see anything more. While we get up here and keep trying to direct him in, let's go over to Sydney himself and see what he can see.
I am now under the instruction of the hyenas here in front of me. The hyenas, they are leading me, and I am hoping to find one of the leopards here. So these hyenas, they are giving me some guidance at the moment. I have got 2 hyenas right in front of me. So here is where I am hoping to find one of the spotted cats. And these hyenas, you can see, they just keep going, keep going. So they might lead us to Tingana and his new girlfriend. So Lisa, what was the question again? Is the female leopard will attract the male? I didn't copy that question very well. So the female leopard on Istras, I don't think at this stage can be able to attract Hosanna for mating activities, as Hosanna's testosterone level is still very much low at the moment. So there is a balance between the ostrich circle and the level of testosterone by the males. I just want to try and find a space in order to follow these hyenas, as I can see that now they are heading much more towards that side, and it is here where the tracks of the 2 leopards got disappeared. So now let's go back to Scott at the Masai Mara, who is just driving.
Well, good luck sticking with those hyenas, Sydney. I really am hoping we find a black rhino. It would be very fitting on World Rhino Day to be able to show you one. And we don't see them hugely frequently, at least I don't. So it'll be good to spend some time with them. We are in the area where a female with a relatively young calf hangs out, as well as a decent-sized bull. So with a little bit of luck, that's who we'll bump into. Okay. Dat one, you would like to know why don't we see rhinos too often? Probably a couple of reasons. There's not a huge amount of them, and they only kind of live in certain areas of the Mara where there are lots of little shrubs, and there's not too many areas like that. And the areas that are well suited to black rhino are areas that I know I don't personally spend a lot of time in, because our kind of main characters that we try and keep tabs on, the cheetah and the lion, are not in the same areas that the rhino frequents. They're further to the south where there's less rhino. So yeah, I guess there's multiple factors. If we looked hard for them, we could probably show you them every day. There is a vehicle with park rangers that goes out every day only looking for the black rhino to try and keep tabs of where they are. So if we wanted to, I guess we could make more of an effort to find out where they are. But like I said, there's only so many of us, and we've got kind of other things that we need to get done. If we spend too much time looking for all the other animals, we wouldn't be able to keep a close enough tab on our characters. Even when we focus on looking for our characters, we battle to find them. So, yeah. Ali, you'd like to know why do we have to stay in the Mara Triangle? The same reason why the guys in Djuma have to stay on Djuma. There's, I guess, yeah, just agreements that get made regarding how far and where you can traverse, and they are often, well, always, you know, financial agreements. And therefore, the more land you want to traverse, the more money you need to pay, essentially. And sadly, Wild Earth does have a limit to how much money they can spend on doing certain things. So yeah, to be honest though, I mean, the Mara Triangle is ginormous, and I think it's actually better for us to only be traversing this area, whereas last year we used to traverse both the Triangle and the Reserve. And we simply don't have enough resources and vehicles to be able to effectively traverse everywhere. We've also kind of fairly recently changed our kind of tactics a little bit, or modified our tactics, in that we like to try and follow set characters, certain animals, to better understand their lives and their story, and be able to share that with you. So if we have too much land to traverse, then we wouldn't be able to spend enough time with our actual characters. I hope that helps. There is a beautiful, beautiful elephant cow. Just want to move a little bit further forward. She's got incredible ivory. Oh, I think this is old One Tusk. Kristen, you'd like to know how big the rhino territories are in the Mara. I'm not entirely certain, but I would guess they don't have the largest of territories. Obviously, you'll probably find bulls will roam further and wider than cows do, as is often the case with male animals. But yeah, I would say 3 or 4 square miles. They're kind of also limited to certain areas due to the right habitat for them to for them to find food. So you may find that because there's not huge amounts of the right habitat for them here, they're kind of limited to certain areas. So you may find that it's slightly kind of smaller territory sizes here than in other areas where they can roam wherever they like and find the right food. such peaceful animals, the old elephants. Most of the time. Sometimes they can be terrifying when they're in a bad mood. We mustn't forget that. But as a general rule, they are just the most peaceful, placid animals and very soothing to sit with and watch. We have had a few hairy moments on SafariLive with elephants. Few close calls, both on foot and in the vehicles. Less so in vehicles, though. On foot, it can be probably one of the, I think, the most exciting animal to approach on foot. So now that she's turned, you can see she's missing one of her tusks. I wonder if it wasn't longer than the remaining one and snapped off. It's not uncommon for elephants with very big tusks for them to break off due to them just getting too long and it's kind of getting in the way. Beautiful. I'm told a lot of you have been enjoying the cute little calf. Sadly, it's kind of seems to have disappeared for now, but let's see if it doesn't. Well, there we go. Well done, James. They are super cute little elephants. My favorite is when they try and take on the vehicles and show you how big and strong they are, and they come running up, ears out, head up. Brian, you'd like to know what is my favorite animal to spend time with in the Mara? Whew. I guess cheetah. Yeah, cheetah. It's funny, my mind my mind and my thoughts and my favorite animals kind of varies from month to month. But as a general rule, yes, I'd say cheetah. For a few reasons. I haven't spent much time with cheetah in my career as a safari guide. So it's here in the Mara that I've got to know them the best and spend the most time with them. Last year I was lucky enough to spend a lot of time with a coalition of 5 males on the other side of the river called the Musketeer Coalition, and they just were the most incredible quality. They'd make a kill every 24 to 36 hours, and there were 5 of them. They were often quite active at night, so we got them making a few kills under the cover of darkness, and simply just following them, you know, as they were kind of setting up and establishing themselves in and around the Talek area. They were moving a lot more than they are at the moment. So it was really exciting and challenging to try and keep up with them. They would move kind of, 5 to 7, 8 miles after dark across riverbeds, and it was very exciting trying to stay with them and make sure that we had them the following day during the daylight hours, which is ordinarily when they do more of their hunting. Another reason is that the way that they hunt, and I love watching animals hunt because it's exciting and not something that happens very often, so to be able to share live hunts with you is absolutely awesome. And the way that they hunt makes it very exciting to film, because they often have quite a long chase. Because ordinarily there's only one of them, it makes our lives easier in knowing which predators to stay on and thus capture the action. Although when animals like lions hunt, they can spread out and you don't know which one to film, and then you're on the wrong one and another one makes the kill. So yeah, I think they're just a well-suited animal for live safaris and being able to share and document what goes down with them. Whereas the other predators can be a little bit more tricky. Of course, they're very beautiful as well, the cheetah cat. One thing that I've never really had the privilege of seeing a lot is cheetah cubs, and sadly cheetah cubs in the Mara have got the odds stacked so heavily against them that it's something that is not really an option for us a lot of the time. There's no cheetah cubs around at the moment in the areas where we can traverse. Sadly, Kenya lost all of her 5 cubs that I was hoping to be able to spend time with and watch grow, but we only ever saw them from like 300 meters away, little specks, and then they got murdered by something, we're not too sure what. But that's something to look forward to in the future. At some point in time we will get lucky. Very good. We're going to keep on keeping on and send you back to Sydney.
I am now approaching the area where they have just spotted the 2 cats behind me. I am on a hunt for Tingana and his girlfriend, and just behind me here someone got them, so I'm going there right now. A Rex coming. Yeah, a station in charge of the Ingwe coming. Yeah, just confirm, can you hear my vehicle? Okay, copy that, thank you. So I am now heading back to a Central where there is a lovely sighting of the 2 cats there. So those hyenas, they were leading me to the right direction and then suddenly decided to move on towards the Twinsdam area. And right where the hyenas left me is where those leopards are at the moment. Eddie, that is very much common. It has been recorded a lot whereby the leopards can be able to travel very long distances for mating purposes. And sometimes you find that a responsible territorial holder is not even a father of the cubs. For example, you find that now Tingana has got a mate and they are staying at the same territory. But when they are babies, you find that this female traveled a long distance to go and meet another male who doesn't belong to that territory. So I have seen a record whereby the genes confirmed that one of the leopards, a female, traveled long distances to meet another male, whereas she belongs to another territorial holder. Yeah, a Rex coming. Okay, copy that. So now let's go back to the bushwalk and see what they're having at the moment.
Herbie's very excited because Rexon came out. Here he comes. The line that we heard them on directly here, we've been tracking, getting the fresh tracks. Sydney was on the trail and then he veered off for those hyena. I think the hyena were following to try and see what's going on with the leopard, and then realised, oh, hang on, that's a mating pair, and then they veered off. So Sydney followed them for a bit and then lost track. If he'd kept that line, well, he would have got them. They're just not far up here, so we're moving out of the site. We don't want to disturb the little romance that's happening there, so we're going to keep going. Seeing as that the mating pair now has been found, please send through your questions, #SafariLive, and any requests you might have for the morning. I'm going to see if I can find any leaves or any flowers coming out on these trees in the springtime. I've seen a couple of them from the vehicle, but it hasn't been good enough to really talk about at the time. But now that we're on foot, we're going to see if we can find some tracks, some flowers, some spring budding leaves. Lauren, my favorite thing about bushwalk, well, all-encompassing the feeling of being out here on foot, just me and my stick, really, surrounded by wilderness. When in a vehicle, there's kind of a comfort zone there. When you're out on bushwalk, you're completely surrendered to the elements, and something very grounding about that. And I've changed many a person's life by doing bushwalk. It's a very different experience to being on a car. If you've never done it before and you are able to, I highly recommend being out there. Everything's more close, everything's around you, and it's wilder. I love it. It's just a very light sort of mist. I wouldn't call it rain. It's just sort of condensation descending down. Well, the good news is Sydney has managed to find where Rexon has got that mating pair. Let's go and see how they're getting on.
I am now right at the sighting. I've got Tingana and the new girlfriend at the moment. I can see they are all together here. The girlfriend is right in front. Tingana is following. This is lovely. It was never easy to find them this morning. Maybe it's because of the kind of weather. They were maybe too relaxed somewhere deep in the bushes. So I can see now that Tingana is following the female. So I can see that female. Oh, I can see she's right in front there. So now let's go to escort.
Well, awesome stuff. Well done to the Bushwalk team for finding the leopards. And I'm sure a lot of you are happy to see them, even though it was just a brief glimpse. Let's hope Sydney manages to relocate. We have found some European bee-eaters. And it's the second time I've seen them in the last few days. They're making their way south from Europe all the way to Djuma. It's hard to believe that these very birds that we are looking at here could, in a month or two's time, be filmed by our SafariLive crew down there. Absolutely incredible. Beautiful birds. And quite lucky to have them sitting like this. They don't often sit so well for us. Glorious. I just thought I'd give you a quick glimpse of these little beauties. My brain's not working too well today, everyone, I must admit. Some days, you know, some days you're on form and others you aren't. Today I'm not feeling it. But hopefully that will change. Maybe I just need to find something exciting to get me a little bit more enthused about the day. Come on, animals. Our time to find our kind of area in which we could find a black rhino is sadly kind of running out. We've got about another mile, and then it's unlikely that we'll see one further south of that. Somebody would like to know how often it rains here. It's interesting. Sorry, I don't know your name, but Luigi will remind me. Well, I've forgotten what your name was. Marie! Sorry, Marie. Let's hope this it doesn't look like it's going anywhere, but we've got another beautiful specimen sitting on the log over here. Marie, you'd like to know how often it rains here. It's kind of sporadic. I remember there being a lot more rain last year. Oh, beautiful. All fluffed up. Enjoying the morning sun. It is a lilac-breasted roller, for any of you who didn't know. And yeah, last year it used to rain quite a lot in the afternoons, evenings, little showers. But this year not as much. There are rainy seasons, kind of March, April, May are the long rains. And the last long rains that we had here provided the Mara with the most rain that it has received in 60 years. So we had a huge amount of rain, which made our lives pretty tricky. This place is a swamp, even when it's a kind of regular rainfall year, and the soil is very sticky. Very good. Sydney's got the leopards again, so I want to get you back there as quickly as possible.
You can see now that the female is slowly coming towards the male. They are all going to come together now. You can see they're all hiding behind the bush. Look at that. Oh, the female is just lying down. Oh. You can see the female is interested in mating at the moment. I can hear the female calling him for mating. Oh, there they are mating now. Lovely, that was amazing. This is interesting. That was nice to hear them growling. So maybe they will come back to us because there is a vehicle on the other side looking for them. So the female seems very much interested in mating with Tingana. But looking at the body build of Tingana and how he does his sowing, you can see that he's got good genes. Maybe that is why this female is so in love with Tingana. Maybe they've known each other for quite a long time. We were just lucky yesterday to discover them. Tingana is so in love with her because you can see she's looking beautiful. So I'm not alone here at the sighting. There's some other vehicles approaching as well. They are very, very camouflaged. Varun, the chances of a young leopard to raise the little ones successfully, they are very much high. As you have seen, the other females such as Tandy, when it comes to the little ones, they are very much protective and they are always together with their little ones and they hide their little ones successfully. So the chances of the little ones to lose, of the female to lose little ones, they are very much low. Look at that. So the only challenge with regards to the little ones is interacting with the other females in the area. So the leopards, they can be very much protective when it comes to the sex. When it's of the males or the females of the same sex, that is when there can be challenges. If this new leopard decides to have little ones and bring them in someone's territory, that is when chances of losing the little ones can be very high. So I'm just going to try and reallocate the sighting and have a better spot. But now let's go to my other colleagues.
Thanks, Sydney. So fantastic that you're able to get in there and actually view the Duke doing what he does best. Still holding his territory. What a gentleman. Well, what we have spotted here is a very small, one of the small signs of the bush. And I'm going to pose it to the viewers if any of you out there know exactly what has happened over here. There's been a little bit of disturbance to the bottom of this small knobthorn, to the bark of the tree, very low down to the ground. Something has gone and eaten the bark there. And I wonder what it could be. Hashtag SafariLive, let me know if you know what it could be. But from an ecological point of view, what this has done is it's opened up that small little spot of the tree itself to potential fire danger and fire risk that could come in. All your savanna trees, this bark is quite fire resistant. It's quite resistant to being burnt, and that damage there to the cambium, to the bark. Now if a fire comes, obviously there's going to be no fire out here at the moment, but in years to come this tree could still grow, but over time fire could go in and burn that dead bark. It's fancy cheetah. Unfortunately, we don't have beavers in South Africa, but I suppose if we did, we would probably see some similar sort of activity. I think beavers have the potential of actually chopping down the entire tree in their quest to make dams, where this individual does not have the ability to actually chop down the tree, but it feeds almost primarily on tree bark and bulbs. Here you go. Oh, Animal Dave, Catherine, and a few others. You've gone with porcupine, and you're 100% correct. This is what porcupines do. And as I'm looking closer and closer at the tree, it's not actually a knobthorn, it's a black monkey thorn. Oh, no, it's not, it's a blue thorn. Acacia exuvialis, blue thorn. You see how flaky that bark is? I thought initially it was a knobthorn. Here you can see the branches, the leaves, they're quite small, but the porcupine has gone and made a very small bit of disturbance here that over time could be quite detrimental for this tree. But anyway, it seems like Scott has found a very common predatory bird, I think the most common in Africa.
We have found a bird, and it's a very cool bird called the black-shouldered kite, and we've been marveling at its incredible aeronautical skills, keeping almost dead still on quite a windy day as it, oh, look at how it drops its legs there to balance itself out, trying to look for either little insects or rodents. They're not the biggest of raptors, so they feed on kind of small prey. And we've been sitting watching it do this for about 3 minutes. Who knows how long it's been hovering like this before we got here. How epic. I mean, if you just watch its head permanently, you will realize that it is not moving, even the slightest little bits. Its head is keeping dead still. Clearly its wings are doing a fantastic job keeping it afloat, as well as that tail that you can see fanned out. I also love the way every now and then it has to dangle its legs down just to make everything stay in tune. Kathy, yes, it kind of does look a little bit like a helicopter, I guess. At least it's hovering like one. Wonder how long it can go like this. I mean, surely it must be getting tired. I'm also immediately just thinking of the other birds of prey that ordinarily will float effortlessly riding the hot air thermals whilst looking for their food, whereas these guys don't have quite the same privilege. Different technique of hunting. Come on, catch something for us. Could sit and watch this thing all day. Absolutely awesome. I'm surprised that it hasn't moved off to another area. You would have thought, like, you've hovered here for 4 or 5 minutes now, and tried somewhere else for some food, but maybe, oh, there we go. Seems like now it's given up. Come closer to us, or it looks like it is coming closer. So hopefully we're going to get some even better views of it. No, that was short-lived. Now it started banking away. Alex, you'd like to know what it could have possibly been looking for there. I'm wondering, maybe it had seen a rodent or something, and was hoping that the rodent was going to come out of hiding again, but they ordinarily hunt small prey. Little rodents like mice, little lizards, insects. Like most predators, they're not too fussy. They'll take whatever they can get. That was very cool. I'm glad we got to see that. Told a lot of you guys are amazed by that thing's skills, and I agree. It's just astonishing what it can do, keeping that head dead still, with its wings going and its tail and its legs coming down. Okay, well, Sydney's trying his best to get you a glimpse of the leopards. Hopefully when you guys hop on board, the leopards will move into a more favorable spot.
I can see there now that Tingana is not very close to the new girlfriend. The new girlfriend is just on a short distance a little bit. So we're just waiting to see any other action to take place here, as I saw that the female is highly interested on this handsome Tingana. It's very much difficult to see. You can only see just a small part of the body. So that is how camouflaged these animals could be. Difficult to figure it out if that is an animal or it's just the bush. But those spots, roseate spots, they look very beautiful. Early, the female leopards can travel long distances, and there is no maximum distance when it comes to that. When they are looking for a mate, normally they get attracted by these males soaring, because some of them, they can soar and it can travel long distances. And if it's thick enough, it does convince them, and that is what makes this female to fall in love. So the distance of the soar can also attract the females from a very long distance. I was once on a sighting of one of the big cats. It was a sighting of the lions. This pride had a dominant male, and I was still working for the Marakele National Park at that time. Marakele National Park is in Limpopo, not very far away from Johannesburg, just about 2.5 hours. While I was there on a game drive, I came across this lion pride, and I knew very well the territorial holder. And this was shortly after one of the lion males has been brought to the area to come and add in order to dilute the gene pool problem. During the introduction of this big male, there were some other territorial males holding their own turtles in the park. And one day I came across this new male just walking everywhere, roaring. He was very big in terms of the size, and he could produce a very loud roar. And the females from the existing pride fell in love with him. They went closer to investigate to see him, and the male responsible of that pride was following to go and check. And guess what happened? When the female gets close to that male, they went and approached him, and the dominant male decided to run away. And he saw that he cannot stand that very big male, and he decided to run away. And the females went there, and they met the new male in the area. I saw that happening, and I was so very surprised, because it's amazing. I thought these females were going to assist their territorial holder to fight against the intruders. Instead of that, they fell in love with the songs and the roars from the new male. So the female cats cannot be trustworthy. Tina, that is going to take just for a while. It's not going to be a relationship for a long period. It's a relationship just for mating purposes, and after mating, that's it. It's going to just take about a week or more, and then that's it. So this female is going to get disappeared and go back to her territory and raise the cub when the cub arrives. So Tingana has got a huge responsibility here in Djuma. Thandi is going to have a problem if this female stays in this area. So after these mating activities, this female must go. If Thandi meets this female, a very big fight is going to take place. I can guarantee you that. So the lion's territory can extend to the opposite sex. The same sex cannot share the same territory, especially if they're all matured. A big fight is going to take place. So you can see now that Tingana is now resting there. And the female as well, she is on the other side. So it means the last mating activity we saw just now, seems like the female had enough for now. So now let's go back to the guided walk. Let's go back to Steve.
Thanks, Sid. Yes, indeed, you're right. Thandi is quite an angry female. I don't think she'll tolerate this youngster too well at all. Well, we've just been doing some ping pong between a few buffalo over there, and we've come to a section. I just want to show all of you people how easy it is to track buffalo. Because here is where they've crossed the road, and you shouldn't miss this from a tracking point of view, because first of all, there's enormous amounts of dung, and there's no one else makes dung quite like this. Very, very wet. Even this time of year, all of the other ruminants, I mean, if I just poke it there with my stick, look how wet that is. It's still very fresh. All of the ruminants generally this time of year, their pellets are very, very dry. They absorb as much moisture out of their diet as they can, whereas the buffalo just don't seem to get it right. That's why they are so water dependent. So you basically just follow this pile of manure, and there's an enormous amount of tracks over here. It's a breeding herd of buffalo. It's crossed the road just over here, moving sort of in a sort of northeasterly direction. We bumped into a couple of bulls just a little while ago, but we decided due to the terrain and the conditions, it's not ideal to get too close, so we've just gone and done a big loop around them. But buffalo are moving track machines and churning up the soil machines and dropping dung, so their movements are actually very, very important. And there's an individual by the name of Savory has designed the Savory model, which basically looks at how a certain amount of buffalo or cow species in an area for a given period of time puts the nutrients back in the soil. They graze to a degree, they turn over, they break the soil cap, and they deposit enough dung, and then they move. That's essentially what migrating animals would do, but in this day and age there's fences all over the place. So he's done stuff in Zimbabwe where he's basically got camps, and he moves them from one area to another, and he overgrazes those areas to an enormous degree, but he's worked it down to the exact day, how many days you could spend with a herd of buffalo or herd of cows in an area to maximize the grass. You'd think that overgrazing it would be an issue, but it's the rest period between the intensive grazing, the dung, and also the churning up of the soil, which is so important for the savanna biome. It is designed through disturbance, and without disturbance, this environment does not proliferate. The savanna, as you probably all know, is the youngest ecosystem in the world. It came about from basically a change in the climate where rainfall decreased and the tropics became subtropics, which led to less rainfall. There's still forests in Africa, but a lot of the areas where the rainfall dropped to a much lower degree, between 250 and about 800 mils, suddenly it spread out. Bless you, Senzo. Suddenly it spread out from thick, dense trees to this open grassland savanna system, which then allowed for your small sort of, bless you, Senzo, it's the dust in the air, which allowed for your small bovine-like animals or antelope-like animals to become a little bit bigger. So the buffalo is probably a small little animal like a duiker living within the forest itself. And because of the opening up of the landscape, grass becoming an enormous amount of abundance in these areas, you got bigger animals, and then they also started to herd, and with the herds obviously producing the disturbance that the savanna so loves. And together with that, combined with the larger herbivore occurrence, was the increase in the size of lions and their prides. Ow! And this is the time of year you've got to watch out for small little thorns, because they don't have any leaves on them. The little knob thorns are hidden in the grass that hasn't been eaten yet. Sorry, Lou. Snazzy had a question there, but I didn't quite copy it. Snazzy, the dung beetles are there are some dung beetles. You find them, we call those the endocoperids. The endocoprid dung beetles are active all year round, and they live inside dung piles. So inside a midden, a wildebeest midden or a rhino midden, or maybe even an impala midden, they could still be active. But most of the other ones, the telecoperids, the paracoperids, all of those individuals have probably died. Their eggs and larvae are in the soil inside a dung ball, doing their thing inside, and as soon as the rain comes, the ground will moisten up and those dung beetles will come out fully fledged, all the way from baby to fully fledged adults. But having a look at this little pile of buffalo dung over here and the way it's been worked there, that is an indication of a form of dung beetle or an insect indeed that's moved in. So we're just going to open it up. You can see those little lines, can't you? Those little holes, little breathing spots. So let's actually just turn it over, see what we might find inside. Probably some small insects. There we go. There's a little beetle. Not a dung beetle per se. Oh, it is a little dung beetle. There we go. But he doesn't look very alive, and that is because it's very cold. Insects rely on temperature, and he almost looks dead. So I'm going to put him back in his hole. But all of these little dots here are indication that insects have moved in. Here we go. Can you see that's moving? There's a little dung beetle doing his thing. Right there. There he goes. There he goes. So that would be an endocoprid dung beetle that has probably moved from one pile to another one, or maybe because the buffalo herds drop these dung piles all over the place as they move. They actually move slow enough for these individuals to follow them. They work exactly the same way. They live inside the dung, they feed on the dung, but this is the time of year they do the best because there's no competition from the other dung beetles, the bigger dung beetles that come in and take all of the dung and roll it away and bury it. I reckon there's over 600, maybe 700 species of dung beetle in South Africa alone. It's an enormous amount. And their whole purpose, burying organic material into the ground. The Scarabaeus is the genus name of dung beetles, and they are highly revered by the Egyptians because, first of all, they bury the organic material, and second of all, they go through a mummification type process. If you ever open up a dung beetle ball while it is still in the process of sort of metamorphosizing, they go through the larval stage, which is a big larva that eats the dung inside, and then it goes into a cocoon, and it comes out of the cocoon as a beetle. And so if you can catch that in the process of the cocoon, it looks like the old pharaohs of old in their mummy with their cocoon wrapped around them. So that's why you see dung beetles depicted on all of the ancient Egyptian sort of hieroglyphics and all that sort of thing. They are the objects of fertility and obviously rebirth, which is what the dung beetle goes through. So we're going to continue on down here. Who knows what we're going to find? It's a beautiful morning out in the African wilderness, loving being on foot. Let's go back to Sydney, who I think is still with the mating pair.
So I can see now that both Tingana and the new girlfriend are resting at the moment. It's showing that they have been mating for quite a long time. So the interesting thing about the cats mating is that sometimes they even avoid eating, because when they're going for eating purposes, they might interact with the other leopards in the area who might come and take away the female. So mating does cost them quite a lot of energy. So if they don't avoid others, chances of losing a mate, they are very high, because to defend it after such a huge responsibility of mating, which is taking place consecutively within short spaces, I am sure that is losing quite a lot of energy. It's causing them to lose a lot of energy. So I'm just waiting here to see if maybe they will again mate. Chris, the identification of the female leopard, I haven't heard about it yet. Not too sure which one exactly this leopard is. Only Tingana knows where this leopard is coming from. So I'm sure they have met before. Because Tingana has gotten access to roam around here and also to trespass and visit the other leopards by the neighboring farms. So they can be able to trespass in between these game reserves. So he's got quite a huge territory at the moment. So maybe this has been his girlfriend for quite a while. Safari Esali, the leopards, they do mate frequently, more or less the same as the lions. So their mating, it takes place for about a week or two consecutively within very short spaces. 20 minutes they can mate twice. That is amazing. So during mating, there is an interesting thing that you must notice. So the cats, both lions and leopards, when they mate, it is interesting but painful at the same time, because when the male is withdrawing his copulatory organ from the female must have to turn and try to push him away. A reason for that is that the design of the copulatory organ of the female has got some barbs. It has got some kind of spikes, and these spikes is the ones that serve a very most important purpose with regards to the triggering of the ovulation to take place. So in order to have the eggs ready for fertilization, the male must have to be able to scratch the inner passage of the copulatory organ of the female so that the eggs can be ready for fertilization purposes. So now let's go back to Scott, who's got the wildebeest.
Very good. We have made it to a tiny, tiny portion of the migrating herds of wildebeest. Basically, every single wildebeest we see in the triangle at the moment will not be here in a few months' time. Literally, there's probably, at any given time outside of the migration months, about 5 random males dotted around the entire triangle. You do interestingly get some resident herds in the conservancies to the north of where we are, and I think the reason for that is that in the conservancies to the north there's a combination of tourism, just like here, as well as the fact that the communities that have allowed the lodges to build their land, they are still allowed to graze their cattle. So that creates a favorable habitat for wildebeest, nice short grass, safe, as they can see. I think it's mainly the short grass though, whereas all this long grass, unless it gets burnt, a lot of it's not palatable, and it also prevents new growth coming through. So just interesting to take notes of that. Every wildebeest you see here now will have gone elsewhere in a couple of months' time. There's also very few zebra outside of the migration in the Mara, which is quite interesting. Okay, well, there must have been a kill somewhere in this area recently, because there's a lot of vultures dotted in all these trees. Oh, that's where it is. It's just off to the right at about, we'll take a look at them first. And then, yeah, let's have a quick look where the kill is. Photobomb. It's just at our kind of 3 o'clock there, James, on the left of the bush at 2:30. Yeah, there we go. We're not going to be able to see a huge deal from here other than the taller marabou stalks and a lot of little vulture heads poking out there. Let me go forward a little bit and try and see if we can't watch those ones squabbling. I don't think we're in the best spot to see them from here. So who knows, maybe there are some predators not too far away. I love watching vultures squabble over kills. I'm surprised that they, excuse me, don't injure themselves more when fighting with one another. I guess it's the same with lions when they scrap with one another. Because if a vulture bites you, I mean, it's got an incredibly powerful beak. If you think of all the chunks of meat that they can rip off the carcasses, it must really hurt when they nip one another. I guess, like I said, they're the same thing with lions when they swat one another. Very good. Now we are really close to some vultures here, so it'll be awesome to get you some close-up views of them. How cool is that? Beautiful. I'm guessing the one on the right's a Cape Griffin vulture. I can't see its eye. If it's a pale colour, you guys can often have better visuals sitting at home than we do out here in the field. I'm kind of watching what James is filming off a tiny little monitor, about 4 or 5 inches by about 3 inches. Bit tricky in this light though, but judging from its very pale feathers, it could be a Cape Griffin vulture. They're less common than the white-backed vultures. Take a look at the one on the left. Let's take a close look at the one on the left there, James. You can see its crop is bulging out in the center of its chest. And are you as tight as we can go, James? Yes. Can't we punch zoom? There we go. So you can see there, its crop is bulging with meat. And that's why it's sitting up in the tree. It's already had its snack. Are you thinking about taking off? Now I'm told they can store about 1.5 kilos of meat in that crop alone. And that's not what they've already consumed that's in their belly. So a useful adaptation that these animals have, because they rely on kind of luck to get their food. You can also see this one's crop also just sticking out a little bit, not as clearly as the other one. These two are very well fed. Wonderful. Very, very interesting looking creatures. They look like they're straight out of a comic book. But don't let their funny looks deceive you. They are incredibly, incredibly important animals, and if they were eradicated from these ecosystems, it would cause a lot of trouble because they do such a job cleaning up a lot of the portions of kills that the larger predators can't. Chitty Chatty Megs, you'd like to know if all birds have crops. Some birds will use their crops kind of like a tumble dryer that helps break up food. So they'll eat little stones that go into their crop, and then they'll eat little seeds or whatever, and then they kind of bounce around and get churned around, and then I think that helps break down their food. I don't think they'll all have a crop kind of designed and used in the same way as vultures. Lots of the eagles do though, yes. Lots of the eagles, even a fish eagle, most all the eagles you see, if they have a big meal, their crop will also fill up. So I think most of your birds of prey or meat-eating birds will be able to store their food in their crop, but then other birds like the seed eaters, like I said, may use their crop for different reasons. I guess also storage to a degree when the going's good. Marvellous. Well, I think these vultures haven't had enough airtime for today. Oh, play nicely, you two. What on earth is this all about? I mean, that really wasn't necessary, guys. You were sitting there, everyone was friendly, and then all of a sudden... How crazy. You wonder what caused that. If one just said... If one said a funny joke... Or one possibly flatulated, as Luigi suggested. Oof, a vulture flatulation can't be a pretty thing for one's nostrils to experience. That actually leads me to think, can birds flatulate? I don't have a clue. Maybe they can't. Anyway, we'll leave that one for you guys to ponder about. Strange thought for me to leave you with. And while you can continue thinking about birds flatulating, we're going to send you back to Sydney, who will hopefully change the subject.
Yeah, interesting pairs there in Mara. I am still here by the lovely sighting, but all these two cats, they are sleeping flat. So what I'm going to do now is that I will be leaving on a very short space to see if maybe we can go and try what is happening by the hyena den. I'll be leaving here shortly because I can see there is not much activities taking place at the moment. I can't even see where the female is, so she's just completely flat. Only Hosanna is the one, Tingana is the one we can see a little bit of. So the other vehicles are pulling out at the moment. Don't get surprised when hearing some of the noise. Gina, Tingana must have to show that he is a responsible man. So if there is anything coming to pass by, he's going to catch it and they've got to feed together. Food is part of the things animals are using in order to attract their males. So to the cats, they can also use their roars, they can use their physical appearance, and they must have to also use their skills. They must have to go and hunt and attract female to show that they are responsible and they would look after everyone. So these animals might be in the same area for the whole day, doing nothing, just concentrating on their business, mating activities. So the males, they've got to mate a lot because the cats have got very weak sperms. So mating a lot gives them an opportunity at least to reproduce. So now let's go back to the bush walk and see what's happening on the other side. I'll be now making my way to the den, hyena den.
Oh, thanks, Sydney. Well, we have found, well, the first flower I'm able to show you, I believe, is the dwarf bush cherry. It's a very, very pretty little flower. The first one that we've managed to find this morning. This small little shrub. The shrub is heavily, heavily browsed. If Senzo pans out very slightly in a moment, you'll notice that it's been hedged like a little bush. It's not very big, and it's kept that way because obviously it tastes very good. So we're going to do the taste test, of course. Let's see what they taste like. It's not bad. No tannin that I can no, it's pretty good. And that gets a +1 for me, a positive for me, should I say. But I've also seen something down here that looks like a couple little insect eggs. I couldn't tell you what this is, though. It's sort of little pouches of eggs over there on the end of a small, what looks to be possibly a guarri, or actually a jackalberry, a baby jackalberry coming up through here. Look at those eggs. I wonder if anybody out there can tell me what eggs these might be. They seem to be the eggs of a moth or butterfly of sorts, but I couldn't tell you. I'm not very good with my insect eggs. And soon, once there's a little bit of moisture, they will hatch, and probably the larval food, or little caterpillars, will move around onto this plant itself and feed on them. Very, very tasty. And I don't know if you can notice the moisture on the leaf here. That is the moisture that we're feeling. You can't really feel it too much, but to see how it's condensing on the leaf there is marvelous. So that is why a little bit of moisture in the atmosphere provides a little bit of moisture for the animals, so they don't have to go all the way to the dangerous watering holes to drink. And here's some more eggs. Here's sense. Different slightly. You're going to have to come around this side. There's another little batch of, that's a much bigger pile. They're double stacked. There's like a story of eggs there. Can you see them? Another set of arthropod eggs. Almost appears from the one side that some of them are already open. Very, very hard to say. I need to really get in, and there's a very nice book out by Lee Guttridge on the tracks and signs of insects, which I'm going to be purchasing very soon, because as the summer starts, or the spring really gets into full flight, we're going to be seeing some amazing activity of insects, and I'm hoping to spend a lot of time with them this year. Definitely my weakest element out here, but very good. If anybody knows the owner of these two sets of eggs, please feel free to send through. And well, we've got a third one over here. Look at this. This almost looks like a chrysalis of sorts over here underneath the leaf. That's a completely different insect. That is actually something in what looks like a type of cocoon without any sort of silk. Looks like a chrysalis of sorts. Yet again, I am stumped. Now, please feel free. If you know either A, B, or C of these three insects, send them through. Please also take your screenshots so I can possibly, if you can't find, I can have a look a little bit later, see if I can find out what exactly is going on. And all three of these are on the same very small jackalberry that's only about 1.5 feet tall, hidden in here amongst the dwarf cherry. It's a little bit far away from the drainage line, this jackalberry. I don't know how well he's going to do with regards to becoming an enormous big fella, but at the moment he has definitely got, just if you imagine how big some of the jackalberries we are, how many of the jackalberries we see, I mean, and we've just got 3 insect activity just on this one little one. Can you imagine what's going on in those enormous ones that we find down in the river, like that big one all the way back there? Can you imagine how much is going on in that big tree? If we've just got, in the space of about 20 centimeters, we've got 3 that we can find. So nature is wonderful, and each of these little elements is just a place for them to house their eggs, to spend their time. Alex, I hope I'd be able to survive alone out here. I could probably, water we could make do. The problem is I don't wear socks, so I'd make sure I've got socks, because with socks you can filter water. Maybe you would need some fluoride tablets in case, but I think there's enough out here to feed on, but it is a very difficult place to go. I think my knowledge still of edible stuff out here is still a little bit wanting, of the actual, the sort of the bulbs and the tubers. I don't know which ones of those actually are very edible. So the bulbs and tubers, something you need to be very careful about, because you could end up eating something extremely toxic. So I'd like to spend a little bit of time with that. But yeah, I think I could get by for a little while. I don't know how long though. But anyway, it seems like Scott has managed to successfully find something he's been looking for all morning. I think he's very excited to show you.
Woohoo!
Happy World Rhino Day, everybody. How lucky are we? A beautiful, beautiful black rhino. Nibbling away with some canoes in the background. It's a big boy. And what's going on with his ear there? Often, I'm actually not sure if the rhinos here in the Mara have their ears notched, but that certainly doesn't look like a regular ear notch to me. They usually just cut a very small kind of triangle out of various portions of the ear. There's 3 portions on the front end of the ear and 3 portions on the back end of the ear that they kind of use to number them. So I'm not even sure if that happens here. That could have just been split, possibly fighting with other bulls, or who knows, running into a tree. They don't have the best eyesight. But I'm so happy we've got lucky. It's quite far from us and the wind's blowing the car. James isn't having a shaky moment. It's just the car blowing in the wind. And we're right on the end of the land. And Kristen, I'm very happy that you're still watching. I thought you may not still be with us, but 2.5 hours or so ago you requested, or 2 hours ago you requested that we try and find you a rhino, and we got lucky. So I'm very happy you're still with us to enjoy this beautiful scene. Now we've just arrived, so I'm not sure kind of which direction it's kind of moving in. Hopefully it'll come closer towards us. Richard, you would like to know how thick is rhino's skin? Whew. I would say maybe a centimeter or 2. Oh yeah, I'd say maybe 2 centimeters thick. I've never skinned a rhino, thankfully. but it is it is one can imagine quite a thick skin. No, don't go that way. Come this way rather. We want to see a closer view of you. So you can see all these little shrubs dotted through the plains. This is what they like feeding on, so this is one of the areas where you can find them. Linda, you'd like to know if I've got any idea how old he could be. I don't have a clue. They can live up to around 40 to 50 years of age, so they can live for a long time. I think we could safely say he's, you know, more than 5 or 6. You know, he's not a youngster, judging from his size. But from this distance, you know, it's going to be very tricky to tell. And even, to be honest, if I was closer to him, I'm not a black rhino expert, and you can't necessarily look at the horn size to be able to know the age, because that's just genetic. Some have got bigger horns than others. I think its teeth would probably be the kind of best indicator of age, and you're not going to be able to see those very easily. So yeah, no clue how old he could be. It's interesting how a lot of these little shrubs are growing on top of / out of all the little termite mounds here, which indicates that the termites are helping create the right environment for black rhino. So quite interesting that such a tiny insect like a termite can have such a huge impact on creating the correct habitat for a giant like that we're looking at now. Well done, termites, for making a good home for the bushes that this animal likes to feed on. You'll also notice that the grass is very short on the mound, and that's because it also creates a good environment for the grass to grow, and it's obviously very tasty grass, so a lot of the animals nibble that nice and short. White rhino, often you see nibbling the grass on termite mounds. The white rhino likes to to eat grass, whereas the black rhino eats leaves. Safari Sally, you'd like to know at what age will rhinos start mating? I'm guessing, I'm not too sure. I'm guessing maybe around 4 or 5 years of age for a female, and a little bit older than that for the males. As a general rule, men have to wait longer to mate than females in the wilderness with mammals, because the men need to get big and strong to be able to compete with other males before getting the rights to mate with, I guess, an assortment of young babes as well as older babes. Absolutely awesome. Such a prehistoric beast. Not nearly as prehistoric looking as the Sumatran rhino, but certainly does look like a bit of a dinosaur. Chris, you'd like to know how large is the population of black rhino in the Mara? I'm not too sure. I'm not too sure, so I'm not even going to hazard a guess. It could obviously, be broken into sections: the Mara Triangle, the Mara Reserve, as well as the conservancies to the north. I'm not sure if you get many black rhino in the conservancies to the north, but I know you definitely do get a decent amount across on the reserve side, mainly along the Sand River. That's the best habitat for them. But I'm not too sure how many are floating about here. If anyone would be so kind as to try and googly that, it would be useful for all of us. Unless, of course, we can find... I can see the rhino rangers. So I'll go and ask them for a heads up. I'm sure they'll know exactly how many are here in the triangle, so that'll be a good start. But I just want to enjoy these views while we can, and then we'll head across and ask them a little bit later. They're not too far in front of us, so we should be able to get to the bottom of it. Alrighty, well, happy World Rhino Day, everyone. Isn't it sad that these animals are getting murdered for their horns, which are of no use to us as humans? Terrible stuff. Anyway, happy to see this one having a glorious day out in the Mara. We're going to send you back to Steve, and I'm going to head off to the park rangers to find out how many of these glorious beasts roam these plains.
Thanks, Scotty. Well done on finding rhino on World Rhino Day. And termite mounds, as you said, we are on an enormous termite mound. If I just stand here, it goes all the way down into the drainage line over there. This is enormous, maybe 6 meters, maybe 8 actually. Oh, it's hard to say. Radius, no, diameter, probably 10-meter diameter. Really, really big. If Senzo comes up here, you can see how this goes all the way down. Very, very instrumental. I can hear a dwarf mongoose calling, and they like to live inside of termite mounds. So do many other species. And the soil that we actually have here for this termite mound is actually quite clayey. Quite clay, I'll show you now. Derived most likely from the alluvial soils of the river. And you can see by the size of the particles. There's clay, how small they are. Clay is actually made up of a whole lot of plates. If you had a look at it underneath a microscope, it's a whole lot of plates laid on top of each other, and that's why it gets that impermeable sort of water. It doesn't let water through. So that is the difference between clay and granite. And here is granite, granitic soil. Look at all of these beautiful pinks. Be rose quartz. The whites and silvers are like the normal clear quartz, or the snowy quartz. And then there's some mica and feldspar inside there. A little bit of rust. You can see the feldspar. There's this sort of fool's gold over there in and amongst, and some of the shiny stuff in their mica. Now the entire low felt is basically, this is almost underneath the entire area, with huge granite plumes that come out in certain areas, but then it's completely covered by sandstone or by sedimented erosion, weathered rock, and these clay particles that we see is just one of the many that have come from further upstream and have been deposited on top of what we have today. So essentially you had all the sediment coming down, and the granite is right underneath at the bottom, and the Lowveld itself is weathered down to a point where you get these granitic koppies that stand out. And this is, I found, just in one of the little drainages there where water has cut through and it's exposed a small little piece of the rock that never came to the surface. That's why the particles, the crystals inside there are so large, because it never ever came to the surface. It cooled very far underneath the Earth's crust, and that is where it did its thing. You can see the particles are very large, so we call this coarse-grained. So when this does break down, it makes very sandy sort of soils, and the sandy soils filter water very easily. The water goes through, no problem, whereas the basalts, which derive this, the clay soils come from the basalts, are much finer grained, much finer textured. Now, this is a bit of a mixture. If you look closely in there, you can actually see there's bits of granite stone in there, small quartz crystals, but invariably the whole thing is made up of clay. You could almost call that a loamy clay, and maybe one of these days I'll do a little bit of an experiment with you and show you how to do the sausage test, so as to test the difference between soils to find out the degree of clay to sand inside of the soil. It's quite easy. You take water, you'll dip the soil in there, and you'll put it in your hand and make a ball. I'll have to show you one day when I've got a lot of water on me. Right now I don't have a lot, and you basically make it into a sausage. It's very interesting. Don't let me forget. We will be discussing it further. I'll probably do it on the vehicle where I could take a 5-litre bucket with me and then wash my hands, because you do get very, very dirty. But it's a very nice field application of how to test what type of soil you have and what the percentage of sand, loam and clay you have in there. Rather than having to go send samples to the lab, you can just find out what the degree of the sediment is. So Senzo's going to try and climb down the mammoth termite mound. You can see how tall it is now that he's on top. Riandi, I am definitely be doing Middles Mondays, hopefully on Monday, or it'll be Tuesday. I'll have a look at the schedule and see when I'm doing the next bushwalk. I think it works much better when I'm on foot, because then we're not pressured to have the big cats. If, for example, there's a mating leopard and I'm on foot, well, I can still go and do my medicinal Mondays, because when you're on a vehicle and there's a mating leopard, well, we feel that we should be spending time with those cats, because with the vehicle it is the best place to do so. Don't you agree, Senzo? Don't slip there, my friend. Senzo's coming down very, very slowly. Now you can actually see now just this mound, from that termite mound there to this ground that we have here. This is exactly what I was talking about. Here you can see where the granite is being exposed over here. This is sediment on top. This is all being deposited on top of this, and the granite is being cut around here through the little drainage line. From moisture movement, weathers and weathers and weathers, and slowly over time breaking this down. Very, very hard rock. Beautiful. Look at that coloration. Got some nice pink rose quartz in there. This would have a specific type of name, but these rocks are probably about 2 billion years old. Granite, somewhere around there. You could give or take a few years left or right of that margin. But anyway, let's go over to Sydney and see what he's up to.
I am now heading up towards the hyena den. I am on remain now just to see if the lions didn't cross much more towards Juma from the Arastuda side. As I just heard that earlier there were lions spotted in this area, so I just want to check if the tracks are heading towards our property or still on the other side. So it is now getting cold. I can see now that the rain is drizzling again. So now let's go back to Scott, who is now having the migration. I haven't been to the Mara. I only see the migration on TV, and I hope to go there one day.
good luck with your lion search, Sydney. I hope you get lucky. What a beautiful scene. Wildebeest, topi and zebra. Many of them. Now, we chatted with the rangers and they provided us with some wonderful information on the black rhinoceros. And there are 12 black rhino in the Mara Triangle at the moment that they are seeing. There's more across on the reserve side, and the reserve is bigger than the triangle, and obviously there's more favorable habitats. So there's about 40 that get seen across there, a lot more, and they're not always there. The reason being is that there are no fences between us and Tanzania to the south of us, the Serengeti, and at the moment I'm told a lot have gone across there. So he's not sure exactly how many are across on the reserve side, but he did get a report saying from obviously his other rhino buddies, saying that there are a lot that have kind of moved into Tanzania. Obviously it will depend on their food availability. So obviously there's some tasty treats across in Tanzania at the moment. We were talking earlier about how these termite mounds create a favorable environment for vegetation to grow on, and you can see these zebra enjoying the tasty green grass that's growing on this mound, keeping it nice and mowed short, which works well for us, because in the event that a cheetah came and popped onto any of these mounds in the area, we'd be able to see it nice and clearly. And as James zooms out, you'll notice that all of the mounds are mowed short. Mother Nature's landscapers. Louise has just mentioned that the wildebeest and zebra down in Djuma would be very envious of all this tasty green grass that the Mara herds are enjoying at the moment. Tough time of year at Djuma, but it is my favorite time of year to be in the Sabi Sands. This is the best month in my opinion. Oh, cute, there's a few little babies, or at least one little baby. The topies, most of them have dropped their youngsters, probably in the last month or so. So there's lots of these little cuties running around. Marvelous. So we're kind of slowly making our way towards the Mara River. I'm wondering if there's going to be any action unfolding there today. And that's going to be our next stop. How awesome is this? Joy, you've just said you'd like to have a couple of zebras employed as your gardeners. They're very sexy gardeners, and yes, that would be nice for you. It wouldn't be very nice for the zebra though. But I know you're just kidding. They are awesome animals, and it would be. It's quite an interesting thing. I don't want to get deep and start talking about why nobody should have lawns in their houses, but it is interesting how us humans have spent so much time and energy on something that is not of huge use to us, and also huge amounts of water to keep our lawns green, when we should rather be watering some vegetables in our garden. Being a bit more self-sustainable, just something to think about. Of course, you know, a lawn is nice for your kids to play football or soccer on or run around on. They wouldn't be able to do that in a cabbage patch. So there is a need for it to a degree, but I guess we could also maybe just use proper sports facilities for that, maybe. I don't know. Just a thought. Alrighty, let's keep on moving on, see what else is out there. Looks like there could be two zebras having a little bit of a tussle up here, so let me go forward a little bit and stop. It's always quite interesting watching these things trying to assert dominance over one another. They can be quite vicious beasts. And this looks like two stallions having it out. Again, just like we were chatting about a little bit earlier about how it must really hurt when the vultures nip one another. I mean, if one of these things bit us, it would probably take a chunk of flesh out of our, off us. They obviously have much tougher hide and are just tougher in general than us humans. Our bodies have become weak as we've evolved, but our brains have grown, whereas most wild animals, it's kind of inverted. Now, I'm not too sure where Jamie is or how Louise knows, but apparently Jamie has been bitten by a zebra and it was very painful. I wonder how on earth she got into a situation like that. They also kick one another, so it's not just the biting, but the kicking, which is quite something. Louise doesn't know too much of the finer details, but obviously just remembers Jamie telling people that she's been nipped by one of these beasts. I did once meet a guy who does game capture in South Africa, where there's quite a huge industry of animals being caught and translocated to kind of private little mini reserves in South Africa. And it's a seriously hectic thing to be involved in, because catching wild animals is dangerous. And this guy got bitten on the forehead by one. He wasn't in a good state when I saw him. I've once seen giraffes being captured. That's quite a thing. Obviously a little bit traumatic for the animals at the time, but it is in the greater good of the species that people can monetize them, firstly, so that there's a reason to look after them and protect them, and also just keep kind of moving and expanding. A lot of people are reverting from kind of cattle farms to game farms, which is wonderful because it means that they are not having to irrigate, they're not having to put any pesticides out, and they are kind of re-establishing once wild areas with usually just general game, not necessarily predators, but that's really, really useful because it provides a home for animals, like this, the general game, but more importantly, all the small animals and insects and birds, which is far better for our planet than just having manicured pastures for cows to live in. And then, of course, because there are no predators, then the general game are kind of harvested, as a cow would be, and consumed, which is also more healthy for us as the humanoids. Very good. We're going to keep on going and send you back to Sydney.
Oh, look at that. I am very lucky with the Unkuhumas. On our way to the den, we managed to find some fresh tracks and trek down until we got to the Unkuhuma Pride. This is lovely. Now you can see they are all very much relaxed here, not worried about anything. But one of them, that one, I'm not too sure, seems to be injured. So I'm just going to wait and see if maybe that one is going to stand so that we can be able to see the injury. I've just been informed by the other vehicle that I got here first that that female is injured. So the rest of the females, they are sleeping now at the moment. It's very much interesting to see that the lions, instead of doing their hunting activities now when the weather is cool and on their favor, decide to sleep. So I still got to check if maybe their bellies are full. Maybe that is what is making them to sleep. Look at that one. So this one is eating grass. So these kind of big animals, when they're having problems with their internal parasites, they've got to eat grass. Chris, I have just counted them earlier, and I can guarantee you all these members of the Nkuma Prides are here. 11 of them are together at the moment. So now let's go to Steve, who got a leopard.
Yes, we do. We've been following up on alarm calls of impala shouting. Just through here, there is a leopard. I don't know who it is. We're just staying very close together. I don't know if you can hear those impala, but they're going absolutely crazy. Stay very close. We're just going to keep quiet. There's a leopard just through here. I can't quite see it. I saw it a moment before. Who could this be? It's just through here. We're just going to get around this bush. We're also very excited to see who it is. Very still. It's just in here. Don't know if you can hear those impala. They're going absolutely berserk. I saw it a moment before. Through the bushes, it's gone flat. Those moments you forget to breathe. Come a little bit closer, Sensor. Impalas are looking over there. Incredible how these things can just disappear. You reckon that's got to kill Herbie? Herbie thinks it might have killed something because it hasn't moved off. Can't see it anymore. The impala, you probably can't hear it, but they are going absolutely ballistic. Just get a visual of where the individual is, and then we'll call a vehicle to come in and investigate. It's always very exciting to see leopard on foot. I've just got the briefest of visuals of it through the thicket here. It's probably moved around that way. Well, we're going to see if we can find this animal. We're going to see if we can get a better view of this animal, but we don't want to disturb it, obviously. If it has made a kill, we need to be very sensitive. We don't want to chase it off. So while we do that, let's go back over to Sydney with his lions.
I can see one of them is just lying next to the road, and it doesn't look like a lion when it's lying like that. Look at this skin color with this kind of drizzle on them, moisturized. It makes them very camouflaged with the grass. They look very dark. You can see the tip of the tail a little bit, they're black. So these animals can be able to lie down for 18 hours. That is too much. So to these kind of animals, conducting hunting activities becomes a play. Anna Marie, that is what I am hoping for. The Nkuhuma pride myself to enter the property and go and see if they can find buffaloes there, because the buffalo has been there for quite a while now. Maybe these lions are attracted by these different big buffalo heads in the property at the moment. So this one is having a problem, and now you can see it's one of those who got a very good knowledge in terms of the traditional medicine. He's now eating quite a lot of grass leaves there in order to solve the parasites problems. When having the internal parasites, that is what they might eat. You can see he's eating all these leaves from the grasses. So these animals, they also got a good knowledge of traditional medicine. They know what to do when having problems with some of the diseases. I have seen some of the big animals, when they're lacking the iron in the bodies, the mineral ions, you'll see them eating the soil that is having quite a more red color, because of the red color on this soil indicate a lot of iron oxide. So you'll see them eating the soil. So I can see that they're all lying down except that one which is having some medicine there. Lady Low, the grasses, they are very much rough. And if you can check by the layer of the grasses at the edges, is nice and sharp. When they are eating these grasses, the grasses helps to wash away the termites in the stomach. So it washes away the termites from the intestines. If you can go after this lion eating the grass now, you will see the first droppings to come out. It will be consisted of the grasses, and by those grasses, you will see quite a lot of tapeworms there. Animals such as dogs, including the domestic dogs, they also do that. Look at how these two are sleeping. So lions can be very social, and you can see they're helping each other in order to warm the body temperature. Those two are sleeping as if they are sleeping by the queen bed. Or maybe a king bed, as they are king of the jungles. So you can see the black tips behind the ears, which are there in order to help them during their hunting activities, when they are communicating, and also when having the cubs. So today, they are not even grooming. When they wake up, maybe it's when, look at that. So that is how these animals detect the presence of their predators. They sniff from the air, so they can be able to detect the other predators in their surrounding, and they can also be able to detect the females, the stage of ostrich. When the females are ready for mating, they must have to sniff the air particles and open the mouth and act as if they're smiling when they're getting the information about the status of the female. So the sense of smell by this kind of big cats is very much important. You can see these two, they are still enjoying their sleep. You can see that looks like a king bed. Look at that. At the same length, This is lovely. Oh, I can see a young male now is there. So that is the young male, is the only male here in this pride. This is lovely. So maybe this young male is growing, is going to go and join the Avoca males. So that kind of very interesting coalition we have in the area. Don't get surprised, I'm not alone here at the sighting. There is some other vehicles arriving. You can see that the ears has got some notches, which is also a way of giving an easy identification on these animals. Maybe they're going to go and drink water by the Vietela pen later on. Zebra, they are now babies anymore here, but considering the age of the young male, I can see he's still very young, that we are not yet ready for some mating activities, showing that the babies amongst this pride, they are growing. There are no small babies at all at the moment. So the age of these lions shows that all of them do participate on the hunting activities. So when they are older than a year old, you will see is when they start to go out and join the adults when they are hunting. But they do full participation of hunting when they are about 18 to 22 months. They learn nicely how to hunt when they're about 18 months. Hunting activities can also be very dangerous to these animals because they deal with animals such as the zebras who got the solid hooves which can be able to kick to death. So they must learn how to do this. So now let's go to the Masai Mara and see what the Masai Mara is having at the moment. I'm sure they've got one of the lovely sighting at the moment.
Interesting stuff there with Sid. Very good. Not too much going on here. Kind of heading upstream along the kind of, not the banks of the Mara River, but the Mara River is kind of adjacent to us. Hi! Oh! That's for Mr. Green Screen, or Mrs. Green Screen. So, somebody thought that what SafariLive was fake and it was all green screen. And the reason being is because one of the reasons was that the guides never cough when there's dust that gets blown into them. So now we have to cough to make people know that it's real. How funny. I do not blame people for not thinking it's entirely real though. I would also be like, no, this isn't live, surely. But I guess in this day and age, you know, with the way technology is moving along so swiftly, it's not completely out of the question. Oh, we've got a beautiful scene here. Well, I'm glad that some of you are lolling about my little coughing session. What a scene. The Defasa waterbuck, an impala hiding behind that. Oh no, is that a Tommy? That's a little Tommy behind there. And then an impala to the left, and then some zebra. So 4 species here. Beautiful green grass. Beautiful. It's hard to believe how much the waters subsided
over the last few months, bearing in mind the road that we've been driving along now for some periods was covered in water for kilometers after kilometer. You're just like driving through a foot deep of water on the main road. Whew, it required much concentrating. Otherwise you ran the risk of getting stuck and then covered in mud. It happened quite a number of times. Once Manu and I got stuck on the Tanzanian border before we had radio network there, and there was no cell phone network. So the only way to get unstuck was to do it ourselves. It took us 3 hours of a lot of kind of physical endurance. Endurance is the wrong word. Exertion. Jacking up the car, finding rocks, carrying them back. The car would slip and fall. Oh, it was a nightmare. Like 2 hours in, we looked at our watch. We were like, we've been going for 2 hours. Maybe we should stop and have some water and a snack. So we did that, and then we continued. And an hour later, we finally broke free. Oh, Sarah, you have come up with a marvelous idea. You suggest that we should get jet skis for the rainy season. That will make our life very easy. Sure, it would be so much fun. We'd have to kind of make it safari, so we would spray paint it green, Land Rover green. Yeah, and we can just, we can tow the cam up behind us. Or maybe we modify the jet ski so it's kind of got like a sidecar. And then I don't have to turn all the way around like an owl. Oh, some impala having a little bout there. And I don't have to turn all the way around like an owl to look at you. I can just kind of lean to this, look across to the side, chat with you like you're sitting in a sidecar. That'll be quite nice. Very good. If any of you would like to buy a jet ski, strap a sidecar to it, paint it green and post it to us, I'd be greatly appreciative of it, as will a lot of the other presenters. Great. Well, Sid is still with the lions. I wonder what they're getting up to.
I am still here and the lions are very much relaxed at the moment. I am thinking about to go and visit the new discovery, the den for the hyenas we saw yesterday. Maybe the little ones are out at the moment. So I'm just going to leave the lions resting as they are and see if we can find something interesting when we get to the den. So in terms of the distance, I'm just about maybe 1 kilometer away from the dens. I will get there just now. Before we finish, I want to go and see if there is any other developments taking place there. It was very nice watching the little one playing with the mom yesterday. So without any waste of time, I will be heading there. So I'm just going to leave the sighting in charge of... So now let's go back to Steve, who is on a bushwalk, and see if his leopard is still there.
Well, we didn't find whoever that was. We then got out, did a big loop around, got the tracks. It was in fact the mating pair that had come in from, obviously been walking east the entire time. Herbie thinks that he's going to go show Thandi his new girlfriend. Wonder how that would turn out. But anyway, that's probably, there's no chance we're going to see them on foot mating pair, especially with the skittish female disappear. We actually had the briefest of visuals from about 50 meters, 30 meters. No, how far, Herbie? No, what? Herbie reckons 15. I think it was a bit more than that. But we all have our own perception of distance. I say about 30 meters at the most, the minimum. Herbie reckons 15. But the entire time I was trying to show you some rocks. I found a nice basalt rock to compare it with the granite. You need to come in a little bit there. Sands, you can see the granite is on the top with the crystals. You can see the crystals are very large. And the basalt crystals, very, very fine. So we call it fine-grained. The difference between these two rocks is the fact that the granite is what we call intrusive igneous rock, which means it never comes onto the surface, stays underneath in the warmth of the mantle, and that's where it does its cooling. And it only gets exposed when the rock above it eventually weathers down to expose it. Whereas basalt is a lava. So basalt is exposed through a lava flow, through a volcano of sorts, or a dike, some sort of fissure in Earth's crust forces it to come forward. And I mentioned earlier that the granite rocks are probably in the 2 billion, maybe 2.5 billion year range, where the basalts, most of the basalts in the world came out in an enormous event that happened between 150 and 175 million years ago, where huge tectonic movements were happening in the earth and crust, and it was breaking, the continents were shifting together, mountains were formed, cracks opened up, and that caused lava to come forward from the Earth's crust onto the surface, not just through volcanoes, but through huge cracks in the Earth's crust. But most of that happened underneath the oceans. So it came and it just sort of pillowed out, sort of like pillowed out lava, you can imagine, not bursting out, just came out and just covered the Earth's surface in many, many areas of the Earth. Huge events happened. And that actually led to an enormous extinction back in that time, because of the enormous amounts of methane gas that was distributed into the atmosphere, changed the carbon dioxide percentage in the atmosphere, completely wiped out enormous amounts of species. And after that is what we see today with regards to evolution on the planet. All the animals that we have today have evolved from remnants of animals that survived that exact extinction period. So very interesting on that note, because 150, 60, 75 million years ago was that last extinction event. And now we are seeing, what are we seeing? We're seeing the 6th extinction, with humans being responsible for the next one. So we are changing the carbon dioxide elements in the atmosphere through fossil fuels burning and through bad agricultural practices and methane through cattle. And we're seeing species dying off at an alarming rate. So very interesting that we can talk about a rock, we can spin it back into stuff that is going on in today's day. But these rocks, as I said, formed very long time ago, and on a world history stage, very, very small. On our world history stage, us, pinprick of sand. So I believe there's a few jokes about the leopards. We got their visual. We had, Herbie was like, okay, I hear these alarm calls. So we went rushing over there, and then we heard the characteristic sort of sound of rutting impala. And then Herbie looked a little bit disappointed, and then we started having some banter. And then they started alarm calling again, and then we knew they were going absolutely crazy. Even the zebra were going crazy. And as we went in, we could just see, I just saw a head. I saw a leopard head, and then that was the end of it. They got wind of us, and they booked it into the vegetation. That's the way it is. Leopards, if they don't want to be seen, will not be seen. And as soon as they disappeared, well, the impala stopped alarm calling. But I don't think they're looking for anything on the menu. There's more on the mind. Jessica, you reckon if Thandi was shown the new lady that she would give a cranky face and put him up the tree? Well, I wonder what she would do to the new little youngster. I mean, Thandi's a strong-willed individual who I have no doubt would give this little youngster, who, from the visuals yesterday, looked quite young. Probably give her a bit of a spanking, I suppose, but it'd be interesting to see. Maybe this afternoon when we go out on a drive, we'll be able to find them again. They keep moving in an easy direction. Don't know who's leading the way. I don't think she knows these routes very well, but he certainly does. It's definitely his dukedom, and he will go wherever he needs to go. So, seeing as the Nkuhumas are back on the property, it sounds like it's going to be an action-packed weekend once again. But Sydney has left them, and he's on his way to show you the cutest new additions to Djuma.
I am now slowly approaching the den. I'm just about a few minutes away, less than 3 minutes, I will be at the den. So I hope it's going to be very interesting there, but I'm not seeing any other hyenas outside here, because sometimes in the very same area there is two hyenas that are always wandering here. I can see there's been quite a lot of tracks showing that these hyenas has been going up and down here. So the tracks, they look very fresh. So it seems like they have been out, maybe in and out for the past few minutes. Oh, I can see the hyena is out there right at the door. This is amazing. Oh, the baby is looking at you. Look at that. This is amazing. Beautiful. Look at the little one. Seems like the little one is enjoying the camera. Look at that. The little one is interested too much to play. So I can see that this hyena is not alone. There's another hyena right here next to me. Maybe this is the one that just got back now, as the tracks I saw were very much pretty fresh. So we can hear this a very interesting noise from the den there. I'm not too sure if that noise is made by the little one. This is lovely. If you look at the color of the So you can see now that the little one is playing, maybe is now drinking from the other side. And I know a lot of people, they are getting a confusion between this hyena and the other hyenas. So this one to me looks like Koki, one of the old females here in the Juma clan. So the social structure of the hyenas is very much interesting. The males, they've got low ranks. Females, they've got high ranks. But the males, their ranks are even much lower than the lowest ranking females. Look at how this one is cool now. There's a very interesting noise I'm hearing from there. Like. Yeah, I'm not too sure if that noise is coming from the den or is coming from the surrounding. So these females, if you look at their body size, you can see they look very big. When they are standing together with the males, the females, they are very much big because their testosterone is 3 times more than the testosterone which is in the bodies of the males. So these ones are responsible to defend these puppies. So now let's go back to the Masai Mara. Scott is having something interesting. I'm not too sure what exactly Scott is having,
Well, very happy that the hyena den is active. I know some of you did ask me to go to the hyena den over here, but I wasn't highly enthused by the thought, so I'm happy you guys did get to see some hyena with old Sydney. He's had a good morning out there. Sheesh, lion, leopard, hyena. And of course, I'm very happy to have contributed the black rhinoceros, especially considering it is World Rhino Day. So a magical morning on safari, and it obviously wouldn't have been the same without all of you guys, so it's been wonderful having you guys along for the adventure. I am heading back to camp, which is just up on the hill ahead of us here, so we've got about another 15 minutes or so from here. Another highlight for me this morning was watching that black-shouldered kite hover, and those moments when it was dipping its legs down to help it balance. It would have been really cool if we saw it pluck something, but maybe next time. Very, very good. Oh, well, it's my greatest pleasure to all of you who are so kindly thanking me for stumbling upon it. We got lucky. I thought we had really kind of moved through all the more likely areas where we could spot one, so it was kind of the last final spot. We got lucky, and I'm very grateful that we did. Wonderful stuff, guys. Well, thanks very much. I am going to say goodbye from the Masai Mara and send you back to Sydney for the last few minutes of the safari.
You can see now that this den is consisted of the three adults. I can see one is right at the door together with the little one, and we've got one standing by the door, and another one is just lying down here, not very far away from where I am. You can see this one is enjoying a sleep. So the other two hyenas looks like is the one that I saw earlier this morning, who led me to the cats who were hiding at that time. So these are the ones who are responsible to go out and gather food in order to feed the one left by the den. Christy, I can only see one cub. Also yesterday while I was here, I only saw one cub. So I'm not sure if maybe there is more cubs in there or it's just one. So that is the only cub I have been seeing since yesterday. And look at that. So you can see this cub is playing with the mother every time because it doesn't have any other cubs to play with. Now you can see it's trying to bite the hind leg of the mom. This is a very active cub indeed. You mustn't forget that the cubs for the hyenas, when they are born, already the eyes are open and they've got tooth and they can fight immediately for dominance. So these cubs are very much intelligent at a young stage. So what I like the most about this dam is that it's not very far away from the nearest dam. It's just close to the Treehouse Dam, and it's in between Treehouse Dam and the Twins Dam. Look at that. The mother now is trying to clean the little one. Oh, the little one wants to come out now. And this is beautiful. Look at that. This is one of the lovely sightings For me to be here by the dam is an ornament, as is the first den I am interacting with. It's very rare to get very close to the hyena dens. It has been a very lovely morning, punctuated with quite a lot of beautiful sightings, such as the leopards mating we saw earlier, and the buffaloes, and also a lot of stories from the guided walks and hyenas by the Mara and other interesting things there. Now we are by the hyena den in Juma, and thank you very, very much for all your questions and comments. Let's meet again in the afternoon.